was, I was here was, what's that, September the 9th, 2000. 2000 and all, so it's good to be back in the Windy City, Chicago. I've been here since then, but as far as speaking here, so I'm glad to be back. There's a brother named Smitty that brought me in, and with the help of Brother Bomani and Sister Deborah and Sister Devonna, and other people that helped make this thing possible. It's going to get right into it. We got 2 days just kicking around. It's going to be a, more of a forum, more of a town meeting, if you want to say, whereas we'll be answering a lot of questions. I want to say right offhand that the first thing that needs to be done is, and I'll explain what that is we got to get out of the sectarianism in the aspect of the different groups having different philosophies and thinking that that's supposed to be exclusive. And what it means is we are dealing with ancient fragments, which means no matter what we're into, whether we Egyptian or Camite or Hebrew or Islam or the religious spectrums, but even newfound aspects of East Indian, Native American or whatever, we're dealing with fragments, which means when you're dealing with fragments, it means that there's no complete system. There's no complete system of anything that survives in the cohesiveness of being the system of 2,000-3,000 years ago. There's nothing that's complete on the planet. That means that we are still dealing with fragments, so no matter how much you have a wide body of material, it's only fragments. Now, what is done is to fill in the fragments by usurping all of the information. Let me give you an example. Now, white folks know one thing. If it don't work, they don't mess around with it. We the only people that stick around with something that don't work for 1,000 years. White folks, if it don't work, they get the hell on. They for results. And in the Western occultism of the Europeans, they figure, hell, we ain't the origin of none of this. So we don't get into the argument of what came before the other, because they realize that all of this is fragment. So what they do is they utilize all of it, like taking all the components of stuff around the earth and putting it together to make one system of something that will work. They call it chaos magic. You see, they call that chaos magic, which Richard King tells you that melanin is chaos. What is it, that hot or something? What is it? I'm just trying to see. Is it hot? What's hot in here? It's hot. Oh, it's going to get it down? Okay, that's cool then. All right, that's cool. So, it's chaos. It never stops never stops moving. Now, which means is the flow of energy and the flow of anything of creativity is based on chaos. So they have chaos mathematics, chaos science, chaos magic, and basically in so many words, when we're dealing with these particular elements, you're supposed to use all of it. You find something in Hebrew, which is a missing fragment that used to exist in Hemmitt, you use it. You find some in the existing fragments of Christianity. But remember now, the Christian motifs came straight out of Africa before they was usurped into by the Roman government to make it some exclusive religion that was never taught before on the planet. You know what I'm saying? That whole greatest story ever sold. So the key here is we got to get out of this sectarianism. Any particular aspect is we are all trained in a certain branch of the mysteries, whether it be the Christian aspect, which is something that is. So what I'm saying here is we don't want to abandon the baby with the, throw the baby out with the bathwater. Everything is a composite. Greek. Why we say that? Because we now talk about the Minoans, the Etruscans, which was all black civilizations. You see what I'm saying? All this comes out of pre-dynastic Egypt. Pre-dynastic Egypt travels out of Hemmitt, sets up Tyrania, Etruria, Etruscan, Minoan, Sumerian, Babylonian, Chaldean, all of that type of stuff. At this particular time, we shouldn't be looking for an identity. That was the first part of the Afrocentric movement, is we had to identify as a people of an ancient people, and we had to identify. We understand the particular aspect of the political level of getting the people out of the dumps and realizing that we were just Negroes born in America in cabbage patch. But at this particular time here, to go further, you must access all of it. Like Elijah Muhammad used to say, this whole planet is ours. Here it is. I'm going to show you something here. This is y'all all right? Yes. Now we're going to go into a question and answer. This whole planet is ours. Let me show you something here. Here's some pictures. There's a sister, Sharon Lewis, I guess she'll come, or whatever the deal is. She sent me a video by a brother by the name of Eugene Adams. We didn't know the guy's name. But it was history on the temple walls where they had us going into slavery, on the temple walls of China. Later on, we found out, in the tape I got in the summer of 2003 was almost like Morse code. You could barely look at it. So I took it up to a brother named Shabazz up in New York. He said, I'll find this brother. The brother, because I found out when I went to Connecticut, one of the sisters said, well, we know that the brother lives in the Bronx. His name is Eugene Adams. So this was enough for the brother Shabazz, who sells tapes on the streets down in, right across the street from Long Island University, downtown Brooklyn. He found the brother, and we got a clear tape of this particular thing, and it shows Asia when it was black. Later on, and it breaks this whole thing down. It's called Africans in Asia. You can get it several ways. You can also get it from Sirius Times, several ways you can get these tapes. But here's some pictures that came off the temple walls of Africa, of Asia, and it's clearly black people. And these are coming from Vietnam. So it's interesting here because we had found out, yeah, here's two of them. You can pass these around. I wish I should have put them on acetate, and I could have put them here. We might go tomorrow to put them on the acetate so that we can show this, you know, to the viewing audience. But you can pass them around. You can clearly see. Well, that's a bad one. You get the biggest one. Let me see. Get the biggest one. Just take one. One of them is bigger than the other, so make sure you see both. But anyway, this is coming from Vietnam. But you come to find out that part of the Vietnam War, and you're going to find out with most of these wars on the planet have nothing to do with what we think they are. Let me give you an example. British guy named Basil Davison. You heard he wrote a lot of books on Africa. There was two documentaries came out in the late 80s, early 90s on the history of Africa. One by a black guy by the name of Ali Maserati, which was a Muslim, which mostly had a Muslim slant to it. And the guy Basil Davison, which had one of the better ones, the Basil Davison, but a lot of black people didn't get the one from Basil Davison when they ordered a lot of these from schools, because Basil Davison was white. But Basil Davison was one of the better documentaries, as Professor John Henry Clark used to say. Now there's the interesting part, because in that documentary they go down to find the original pyramid builders in the original pyramid building. I'm going to throw libations and all that in a few minutes. But they said, we're going to go beyond Kemet and go to the original pyramid builders. So they went on down into basically Nubia, Punt, Somali, what you say, Kush or whatever, Ethiopia. And they went down to this particular part and they asked, well, who would these people be? And on the tape they show these actual Africans building pyramids in the late 1980s. Small pyramids down in Nubia, Kush or whatever, in the Horn of Africa. The guy said, so Basil Davison asked the question, well, who would these people look like? And there's a guy that's at the university says, they look like me. And this brother this brother was about your color. He said it looked like me and all. And so this brother was at the university there in Khartoum. Khartoum is where? That is, where's the place where they have all the Sudan. So here it is, the Davidson traced some of the original pyramid builders to Sudan at Khartoum, and then all of a sudden you see this whole thing going on with the slavery and the genocide in Sudan. See what I'm saying? Well, this whole Vietnam thing has a whole mystical side to it. So going back, and I do this to illustrate a point, that we need to usurp the entire planet. Because we got people that's stuck in Egypt. You know what I'm saying? Stuck in Kemet. We got people that's stuck in West Africa. We got people that's romanticizing the continent of Africa, and the continent of Africa, you see what I'm saying, is damn near a brief period of where we were if it was all one landmass. And all the scholars agree that one landmass has also been proven scientifically that it was one landmass. So therefore, at this particular time, in order to get the fragments, you got to usurp all of it. Native American, real big. A lot of Native American energies, I'm going to get into in a few minutes, is rising. We talk about in the spirit world. So therefore, you're going to have to usurp the Native American aspect. You're going to have to usurp the Mesoamerican, which is the whole Hispanic thing. In particular, there's a whole book called Mexican Magic. Very key book, came out around 2000. The reason why we're saying you have to usurp that, because when we're dealing with the Palomanombe and the Santeria, we see these particular Mexican deities, Santísima Muerte, El Cristo Negro, El Cristo Rey, or Santísima even fused in with the Congo African rites. So we're saying at this particular time there's fragments, and if you there's fragments, and if you just are looking at one portion of the earth and still thinking you're going to get what you're looking for just on the continent of Africa, you're wrong, because the continent of Africa is dead. You see what I'm saying? But the point about it here is based on history. The mystery would be in the West. That's the key. The Western Hemisphere. That's what the Egyptians prophesied. There will be a group of Egyptians in the last days. You understand what I'm saying? So, a whole lot of Native Americans, and I'm going to get into this because I'm going to explain something, what we're dealing with at this particular time. We're dealing with solutions. And we're dealing with what is the type of energy or something that we need to tap into, and what are the breakthroughs. So, my role as a speaker or as a lecturer never was to get up before the crowd to lecture. The people did that. My role was mainly research. It was mainly research. And as a result, the research, I was able to parlay 13 years on the lecture circuit. You see what I'm saying? Through poverty and all of that, but still yet I'm still here. The mystery here is, it is the research and to find out to never be happy with the information that we find. Which means we have to, if you wake up in the morning and it's just like Pops used to say, which is Louis Armstrong, believe it or not. They say, "What's up, Pops?" Louis Armstrong, he said, "White man still in charge." You wake up and your situation ain't changed a bit. It means that you still have work to do. So now, in dealing with this, dealing with this particular mysteries, there's a mystery which brought up by the Moors that is later on turned into the Grail mythology, which you don't study. You know, the Grail mythology with Lancelot and Guinevere, King Arthur, all that is nothing. Arthur is Otha coming out of Hemmitt, which means the dog star, which is Osiris. King Arthur and Guinevere is Isis and Osiris, same mythology. You see what I'm saying? Changed into mythology for the Europeans by the Moors. Because the Moors knew that we were going into slavery. just as the Egyptians. And if the Europeans did not preserve this, we wouldn't have it now. Some people, we get emotional about things, and we just don't look at the concept of history. You see what I'm saying? The concept of history. These things had to come to the West. That's why the Moors was in Spain for 700 years. Because they understood that historically, that the Camite language, the African motifs, all that would die. And so they had to bring it up into Europe to preserve it. So some of the same Osirian myths survive in the Arthurian mythology. The Arthurian mythology. I got off where I was going with this, but I'm going to get back to it. But anyway, in these particular Arthurian mythology, they talk about the great gathering that will be in a land that has not have been established yet. They also talk about it in the movie Highlander 1. They said we're going to go to the great gathering, will be on a land that's not established yet. You see, they talk about that. They talk, like I said before, they talk about in the Hermetic material 5,000 years that it will be a group of people in America that will reestablish Mayat. In the Arthurian mythology, they talk about something called Mabinogion. It's called Mabinogion in Arthurian mythology. In Egypt, it's called Sekhet Aru. In India, it's called the Shakti realm. In Hebrew, it's called the realm of the Shekinah. In so many words, in the last days, the ultimate mystery is to be let into the realm of the goddess. And that's the great mystery. Because this is the great mystery of all the great heroes, whether they lose or fail. In the mythology is, you have the hero warrior, and he fights and he fights and he does what he has to do on the whole patriarchal masculine aspect. But when he gets to the doorway, he's not able to go through the doorway because he's still thinking on a patriarchal mentality, and the doorway to the divine realm can't open until he becomes woman, or one with woman. You see what I'm saying? We're talking about accessing his feminine aspect. So there's a realm of the goddess, the Sekhet Aru, that no person can be led into until they understand the divine mysteries of the goddess. That includes sisters, because it's known that women hate other women. Now, so dealing with this particular information, at this particular time, we're not talking to the layman. We're talking to people who've been into this thing for years. And if you've grown, and some of us have grown comfortable in our section of knowledge of what we know, and we know that one of the greatest places of the certain sectarian world, as far as different groups, they're separated and segregated from each other, is Chicago. 4,000 groups competing, you see, to somehow prove to themselves the lie that they have the ultimate mysteries and nobody's going nowhere. And that's one of the reasons why, probably why I haven't been able to get back here the last 4 years. You see what I'm saying? So, pretty much at this particular time, after you are the adept, we're not talking to the layman. Now, some of the people that's coming to conscious meeting for the first time, I just have to apologize. You just got to get in where you fit in. Because we are way into the millennium. You see what I'm saying? We're going into 2005. 2005, from 2001 up until now, it's been fighting against so-called foreign terrorism, which was fake. And that was the orientation to learn how to mobilize and neutralize what they call domestic terrorism. And who are the domestic terrorists? The black conscious, us. The black conscious and group of white folks that brought out all the Illuminati and stuff like that. There was two. If you study history, there was two resurgence of knowledge going on, starting in the early 90s. We started getting into our classical civilization. The white folks started getting into conspiracy and more into the occult. Then we entered into the occult also, which is all our science. So there was a white intelligentsia that the government also decided that they were going to destroy too. They used to call themselves militia groups and all that. But they knocked out a bunch of them just with Timothy McVeigh. And that whole thing that went down in Oklahoma. You see what I'm saying? It went down in Oklahoma. They knocked out a whole bunch of them then. So in so many words, they have a certain group of them that's under attack. You see what I'm saying? For the simple fact is, they have to show this so-called mainstream terrorism in the name of legitimate and all these white folks is in it. So they got a group of those particular ones that they had a militia group with the Michigan militia, which was what, a couple of 100,000, and after Timothy McVeigh was down to like 1,300 or less. People not want to claim to be the militia or whatever the deal is. Well, that's their particular fight in which they're going with. What I'm trying to say here at this particular time, the domestic terrorism now is the black conscious. You see what I'm saying? But we're divided through ideology and it ain't going no damn well. And at this particular time, you're supposed to be picking up the fragments and finding out what works. We're going to get into some of this particular science. Y'all all right? Yeah. We're going to get into some of this science today. We're going to pour libations. At this particular time, I'm proud to announce that what has happened is we've made contact with a certain amount of energies. One of the energies now that was prophesied in East India was their form of Maya. And although their form of Maya, which the energy continued because they never stopped worshiping it. But remember now, Hemmitt, after the invasion of the Moors in the 6th century AD, it was almost damn near 1,000 years. From the 6th century AD up until 1835 when they so-called translated hieroglyphics. You know, I think I mentioned this the last time, it was actually a black man that they got from Chicago to translate the hieroglyphics because Napoleon and them, although they was working with it, it took them 15 years to try to translate it, they really just couldn't get it. And so they got a brother off the street. He came in there and he just knew it. And they tell the story at the University of Chicago. The sister Richetti Wimby, who went through the University of Chicago, you see her, that was being presented in Ivan Van Sertima books and different ones. She tells the story because she was a part of the program. That it was a black guy that they got to actually translate half of it. But as a result, you see what I'm saying, that goes unheard of. Now I know this happened to be true because there was a guy named Yehoshua. He was at the Hemmitt Summit, the conference I did back in 2001. Brother named Yehoshua. He goes back and forth from New York and California and Atlanta. This brother learned Hebrew in a damn week. And was so good until the rabbis at Boston University had him up in there teaching them because they couldn't see the cliffs. There's certain curves and certain things that they couldn't see. You understand what I'm saying? Number one, he was getting this particular stuff from genetic memory bank.
You got it. There you go. There you go.
You see, it just came back to me.
There you go.
Now I know there's a guy, a crackhead guy down in Atlanta. He came by the ex-girlfriend Ginger's car. And I said, asked my brother, where the hell you get this Negro from? He said, man, I see this guy fixing. Every time I drive by someplace, I see this guy here. He fixes all the Mercedes and all the BMWs and all of that. So I know with him working like that, obviously this guy here got something going on. I started talking to this guy, and I said, well, how do you know this stuff, man? He said, he wasn't conscious, but he was spiritual. He said, I pray at night, then I go to bed, and when I wake up in the morning, I see everything I need. The German car's blueprint in his head. He said, I got so good till one day I touched a woman's car. And it started right. Now, so I know when I was telling about genetic memory bank about how this guy could learn Hebrew in a week. I knew this could happen because when I was in Philadelphia doing a lecture, this woman told me about a guy that they got off the system. Anytime these machines break down, They said, oh shit, the machine broke down. So where's the people who, the person who puts it together? Where's the technician? Well, he's in France. He's in Germany. They said, well, you need to go out to the damn ghetto and get one of them niggas off the corner. Them blunts. And so there was a guy, and he said, this coming, they would get me, and I'd go to this strange building, be some space age looking shit. He said, I didn't know what it was, but I could fix it. He said, I didn't know what it was and what it did. He said, all I knew was I could fix it. Now we know that because I know Negroes, all your life is just to fix a car, and ain't nobody taught them shit. They just to fix a car. See what I'm saying? They just to fix a car. Now I know for a fact because since 2000 or 1999, I become this chef and I'm cooking East Indian cuisine, Asian cuisine around the world. And people say, how the hell you learn how to cook East Indian food? I said, I just tasted it once. And when I tasted it, I said, I just don't taste it. I said, I can make it. And I go and I make it. I don't know how the fuck I do it. I'm like, oh, I'm a chef. They be like, well, how you do it? I said, if I told you, you said it'll be a disaster. But I know how to do it just based on spirit. No different than people can play music. So we're talking about a spiritual realm. And that's what we got to access. You see, where you just know certain things. You see what I'm saying? You just know certain things. And there's a brother named T.B. King, played jazz all the 60s, in the late 60s, all the 70s, and he decided he's going to go to college in the 80s. Master jazz player. He and his brothers played, they were actually jazz musicians. And I said, why are you playing jazz now? He said, because I hate jazz now. I hate the music now. I said, why? He said, because when I got there, they got you writing down all this stuff. Although you can read music, they got to write it all down. He said, when I started writing it all down, I started hating. I said, I know what you're talking about because I majored in art. And I said, I majored in art and I loved art, but when I went to college after I got through, I didn't want nothing to do with art. Because they train you on that left brain capacity and it ain't spiritual. Yeah. You understand what I'm saying? It's just like them dance steps. You can do all that dance stuff to go to Soul Train line. You see niggas putting 4, 5 steps in between the beats. But then it becomes popular dance. You see what I'm saying? Other groups learn it and they on choreography and something ain't right. But you can look at the originators of it and you can see certain things going on the inside. That is the chaos that we're talking about. Now they got a whole movie called What the Bleep Do You Know? Yeah. For the last 3 months, 3-4 months. And it's about quantum physics. And talking about your existence might be two or three different. There might be a you over here in the doorway, or you are here in the doorway, and you are here in the doorway, and you here in the doorway. You got to, based on what doorway you pick, your circumstance could be fucked up or it can be great. And so they were saying in the quantum physics, we got to figure out mathematically how to choose the right doorway to get another reality. You see what I'm saying? But they left out a lot of the spiritual aspects, because the spiritual aspects was this. To choose the right doorway, mathematics is the low level. We used to do it spiritually. It's called getting into the zone. Anybody ever played sports? They say these people can, you got a whole auditorium looking at the ball, they grab the ball, or they grab a football, basketball, and they got to make a play that's perfect with insurmountable amount of pressure. And how can they make that shot and they hit nothing but net? Why? They say because they're in the zone. So they're in a dimension outside of the dimension where everybody's going, oh shit, I hope they make it. I'm frustrated and stuff. I stopped watching these sports because it just frustrated the hell out of me. You know what I'm saying? Yes, you know. But the point I'm trying to make here is they get into the zone. You get where I'm coming from here? Yeah. They got this white guy. He's trying to teach these white folks on what they need to do. He said, look, he says, time is speeding up. And it's going to get real ugly. He said, and if you don't get with it, he said, what will happen? He said, you're going to start going crazy. If you don't get with the time, it's speeding up. It's speeding up, and you were on a time zone that was the 1970s, the 1960s, the 1980s, and there's a time frequency that's speeding up. He said, they said, well, what we going to do? He said, you're going to have to do like the sports figures. You're going to have to get into the zone. You see what I'm saying? So what do we mean by that? It's the same thing I was talking about with cooking. I said, no, I went to the East Indian restaurant on my birthday. Me and my new goddess, her birthday was on November the 20th, and mine was on November 28th. So, other sister came through, Sister Kimberly, one of my psychics friends, came through and take us out to lunch, to dinner. So I take both of you out, to celebrate your birthday. So I went to the East Indian restaurant, and they brought out a masala that was unbelievable. I'm like, man. And I tasted, she said, man, this thing here is something else. Although they fed us some old meat. You see what I'm saying? That's what Farrakhan's saying. The reason why you fucked up now, because you eating out all the damn time. You see what I'm saying? You eating out, and that's why you ain't in the zone. You eating other people's energy in the food. So we went out, and I said, no, she said, this shit ain't right. But the masala, the sauce, was unbelievable. And I tasted it, I said, I can get this. And I've been making it ever since. You see what I'm saying? I've been making it ever since. And my stuff at home is better than the restaurant. They were saying it. So he was right when he was saying, Farrakhan was right when he saying, we eat out a lot now, so therefore we're not in the zone because all of our cooking is coming from other people. You see what I'm saying? And you heard the whole concept on how we used to eat all that pig and all that hog and all that stuff in the South. And what hell, they used to, they still do. But my point here is, why those people live long lives? They said because they were in the zone. It was love going into the pot, so they were even transforming some of the lowest kind of food. You see what I'm saying? And everybody to this day swear out that nobody can cook better than their mama. Except you got some mamas that can't cook. But I'm talking about the ones who could cook. They said, I lived all my life and nobody can make it better than my mama. That's actually ludicrous. But it's not if you understand the concept of what they mean. She was tailoring into your taste buds based on you have chemistry, a symbiotic chemistry. And that was the love going, and you ain't gonna never get that again in your life. Except you transfer it to your children. You understand the concept where we're coming from here? So we talk about getting into the zone, but we talk about a whole lot of stuff that's actually working now. So what has happened here is over the course of the last 13 years of me doing this, we got a lot of breakthroughs. So it's to the point right now that we pretty much got answers for everything, and we got breakthrough and solutions for most things. And some of the things that don't work for you is because of the simple fact that you're hard-headed to understand that those things that you will want in your life sometimes is not necessarily relevant to where your body is at this particular time zone. And that's some ego thing that you're trying to prove a point. And we need to go into what is called no self. And I'll tell you what no self is. To get complete freedom is basically you completely take yourself. And yourself, me as Bobby Hemmitt, and you completely demolish yourself and get rid of yourself. You completely neutralize yourself as an individual and as a being, as a person. You destroy that person. That person becomes your enemy in a particular way. Now, what it means is not really necessarily enemy. I don't want to be extreme about this. But what it means is going to know self. On October the 16th of 2002, I was sitting in a chair and I went to know self. It was kind of lonely because I was actually in a zone where Bobby Hemmitt was not irrelevant. My little pathetic life and where I live in Atlanta, Georgia, was only an illusion. The only real thing was my real self, which is my soul and my spirit and my being. And this particular thing was only a role that I was playing in, so I went to know self, and when I neutralized that, it doesn't make any difference now. That means once you neutralize that particular part of yourself, you don't even take credit for it. Like there's a brother back in the community that don't even want to take credit for bringing me up here. You see what I'm saying? So we talk about getting to that particular level whereas you going beyond this, and what it really means is once you neutralize self and go beyond self, because you think that your body is yourself. That's the problem. You see what I'm saying? You think that your body is yourself. Once you neutralize self, you understand what I'm saying? Then it pretty much gets easy for you. It pretty much gets easy for you and stuff. But you have to get out of, I'm this particular person that is supposed to be respected and admired and all this type of stuff, and that's the zone that you don't want to be in. You see what I'm saying? Because they're talking about something greater than that. So if you're talking about something greater than my little personal, oh, I've learned how to do this. I'm a great Hebrew person. I'm a great Islamic teacher. I learned all that shit. Which is only a fragment of still searching to go to the greater level. Once you realize that these are only avenues, and you are greater than that, theology practitioner that you think you into to making you great, and you're going beyond that, then in actuality you will still search for greater solutions. And won't be sticking around in these groups for that long. Y'all all right? Yeah. Now I don't want to get philosophical, but I do want to get philosophical in a way, but I want to, because at this particular time, we're dealing with breakthroughs. That means in actuality, one of the sisters said, well, damn, you ain't saying what you were saying in 99. Well, goddamn, I'm supposed to be saying what I was saying in 99. Like Tony Brown had a damn lecture he did for 10 years. Almost you could set your watch to it. That is not knowledge. That's masturbation. That's regurgitation. That's entertainment. We're not talking about entertainment. It's supposed to be bizarre and strange. You see what I'm saying? Bizarre and strange. You know what I'm saying? And in that particular thing, so, Chicago, they couldn't take the whole sexual thing. Everybody is here for somebody fucking. But when we start going into the mysteries of sex, people lost their mind. You see what I'm saying? People lost their mind. We're going to get into some more of this today, too. We're going to get into some solutions. We're going to get into some solutions on particular aspects. But the point about here is, forget who you were the last 30, 40, 50 years, 60 years, or whatever. We're talking about something. So you didn't have a choice. You just couldn't go and live in another affluent neighborhood. You had to live right there with everybody else. You understand what I'm saying? Which was good. That meant that all my friends was either well-to-do or poor as shit. And it was a consortium of people in the neighborhood, but there wasn't no upper mobile black community in Mullen, South Carolina in the 70s. You live here, my grandma was a school teacher, across the street was some people on welfare. You understand what I'm saying? So the point I'm trying to make here is it set up something that plagued me all my life, and it was this. I had friends that was poor, that I played with in elementary school, junior high school, and high school. And after high school, I got friends that never went beyond a level of enjoyment of life beyond high school because of their economic structure. Now this is interesting here because they say that's what used to happen to the slave children up to age 7. The greatest time in their lives was between when they could remember up to age 7, because after age 7 they would have to go to the fields. You see what I'm saying? Well, this went to a particular part whereas it was after high school, but I know brothers and sisters that never went beyond a level of innocent enjoyment where life was just beautiful, just being black or just being young. You see what I'm saying? Carefree after high school. And that's plagued me because I know people like that. What's interesting is a movie you need to get called Shadrach. Anybody saw that movie? It's called Shadrach. It came out in 1996. What's this guy named? Shadrach, the big actor, white guy, played in Taxi Driver, not Robert De Niro, the other guy, the villain in the movie.
Oh, Harvey Keitel.
Harvey Keitel, and this other woman, she has Harvey Keitel is the star in there, but it's about a slave that's about 100, he's 99 years old, and he was sold into slavery when he was sold from his family from, I think, 25, and he ended up sold to Alabama from Virginia. And he started that spring of the year at 99, and he walked from Alabama to Virginia to go back to the place where his family was from, the plantation, to die. And the little white boy in the movie, he took on the guy's visions of what the guy thought was paradise. And what the guy thought was paradise before he died was him playing in the river or this lake around age 7. So it was almost like, say, his paradise on earth before things got fucked up was that point in time when it was carefree, when he was, because they had to go to the fields at age 7. You see what I'm saying? And that was his particular point in life. That was his paradise. Well, it's interesting because I know guys like that now back home. And when I go back home, whenever I do, I can go home about 5-6 years. In South Carolina, I meet some of these guys, and I mean, they are fucked up. But if they go and they reminisce about a time it's almost like they're stuck in time. The time that was the greatest time on their life was between age 1 or 2 up until 18. You see what I'm saying? So, up until 18. So what I'm trying to say here is, when you really look at this particular earth, and really look at what we're really talking about, it is hell anyway. So whether you're going through hell, we can all go through a comfort zone, and we can call out a little niche, we got some table, we got some damn heat. We got a closet full of clothes, and whatever your comfort zone is, but you got to understand, it's not holistic in the aspect that we know dozens of people that never really experienced whatever your comfort zone is. So in actuality, when you really think about it, the earth is still fucked up. And this shit got to go, no matter how many more cars you want to buy. We got to go to another level. But the other level might not necessarily be all black people get to a certain economic bracket. That's romanticism. That ain't happening. You see what I'm saying? We have deteriorated down to almost subhumans. See what I'm saying? Now that's a fact. So now, I want to go into some stuff. We got a lot of stuff we got to deal with today. A lot of spiritual things. The good part about this is there's a certain energy that even the Jews in Israel, the Israelites, say that they have been trying to stop this particular feminine energy from coming to the earth. This is what Richard Barron's book, the scrolls of King Solomon. What you're talking about, they're mainly a patriarchal culture. And they're trying to stop this particular feminine energy from coming to earth. This thing is permeated now, but we have to track the pot of gold and where it lies. Now, I'll give you an example. What I'm saying is here. There's a certain energy, I'm going to get into it, a certain goddess that has come through on the eclipse. The eclipse just happened on October 27th. This particular goddess came through, broke through, but she's really been permeating the earth since 666, June 6, 2004. 2 and 4 is 6. And that's when the Venus went across the sun. There's this particular energy. In this particular case, this golden one, that's why I was just went to Walgreens to get some water, and she told me, go down this road, this Christmas aisle, and go down this road. And I went down this road and I saw this gold thing with bells. Because one of her things is bells. This Indian deity Lakshmi, I'll get into it. One of her things is bells and one of her colors is gold. And I said, oh, shit, you had me go down this damn road. We get these bells and stuff in your presence. You see what I'm saying? Get these bells in your presence. So we're going to get into that particular science. Each day it grows, it gets stronger and stronger, her presence. So we enter into this particular realm of the divine feminine, or the Shakti power. So what we're talking about here, this is the same energy that the Egyptians talked about that was going to be their paradise in the future. It's called Sekhet Aru. In India, they say our paradise is going to be the Shakti realm. In the Hebrew Kabbalistic system, they're waiting on the mystical Shekinah. This particular energy is permeating the earth at this particular time. Let me give you some good mantras and stuff you need to do. If you want to get some stuff, get the Duke Ellington's Nutcracker Suite. That's the whole Nutcracker Christmas thing. That's the mythological thing and stuff. And you just thinking it's some symphony, and these white folks is going, and they're going through that whole Nutcracker thing. Every year. That's a ritual. Now, Duke Ellington wrote his version of the Nutcracker Suite, his jazz version of it, and you can get it on CD now. You'll probably be able to get it, especially this Christmas, because they sell it out of this stuff. Get the Nutcracker Suite. It is an awesome piece of Duke Ellington and Billy Strayhorn, so much of that Spike Lee put the waltz of the Moor, or the march of the Moor, is a part of Duke Ellington's Nutcracker Suite, is when, in his movie Malcolm X, when Malcolm went to Mecca, there was a certain music playing with drums. That's Duke Ellington's March of the Moor Nutcracker Suite. Very serious you get that particular CD, especially around this particular winter solstice time. It's about winter solstice more than it's about the whole Christmas thing. But remember now, the whole Christmas thing is the birthday of Horus and the birthday of Mithra. You get where I'm coming from here? You see what I'm saying? And so you got to break down the mythology. The baby Jesus is the baby Horus, the baby Buddha, the baby Krishna, the baby Eros. You ever see Eros or Cupid? You know that Cupid is the baby Horus. Horus is one of the... So this is mythology that's talking about here. If you don't historicalize it as a historical person that never existed. The baby Krishna, the baby Buddha, the baby Jesus, the baby Horus, the baby Heru, the Eros, Cupid, or more, is nothing but your soul that is dormant, but goes to the level of the heart chakra, which we're going to get into today as far as the heart chakra. That is the doorway, and that is where the goddess resides. We're going to get in deeper into these particular mysteries. Y'all all right? Okay. What we're going to do right now is to pour libations so we can do this thing. I'm glad to be here. Like I said, we're going to be here for 2 days. Please come back both days. You should always try to access when you do finally get people in town. You know, so last time it was 4 years. I'm quite sure we're not going to have it this time, but you need to access this particular information and access this. This is stuff that you don't get all the time. Not tooting my own horn. I'm just saying there's anybody that comes through. You see what I'm saying? It's just giving information and not necessarily indoctrination. You understand? So we got, well, as usual, we got a whole lot of books we got to access and different things you can get. Now, doing the election, which we'll go into right after I get through with this. During the election, that day, the next day, well, the day that he won, so that would be what the election was the 2nd. On the 3rd, ironically, during that same time, well, the first thing happened was, we got up in Atlanta. They had no, the weather was supposed to be sunshiny because we checked the forecast. Supposedly there was no clouds or no nothing. But we got up that day, and it was one of the worst overcast days in the history of Atlanta. And but the forecast said it was supposed to be bright and sunny on the 3rd. But what had happened was, black folks cried the blues so bad with John Kerry losing until that day we couldn't even see the sky for 3 days almost. That's because they cried the blues so bad until they brought on a whole overcast. Now we know this happened because when they did the gas companies, they did it all across America in the 2000s. What they call it, they took the gas companies and they deregulated the gas companies. I don't know if they did it up here, but you could choose down in Atlanta, and as a result, black folks got their gas cut off at the end of 2000. And they cut off so many black people's gas. I mean, they had black people that had their gas on for 30 years, 40 years in some of these houses, some of these older people. And they cut their gas off. After 2000. And by the end of 2001, the government had to call down to Atlanta and the whole entire East Coast, most of the East Coast, and said, look, we got to get low costing gas providers. Because if we don't get these gas providers in here and cut these people's gas back on, we might not have a Christmas. Because they said they would, because what had happened was black people was wishing so bad that it did not get cold because they didn't have no gas until it stayed 70 degrees and 65 degrees and enough that they can plug in them space heaters or whatever and get warm. But it didn't get cold like they wanted. But Christmas holidays and the European holidays is based on a certain climate. That's the way they got the ritual set. The day after on Thanksgiving. Because sale means sell. So the government had to come in and hook up black folks' gas. Because by us being a primal people, black folks was all wishing the same thing at one time. They say, oh Lord, hope it don't get cold, because I'm going to have to go beyond this space heater. And the space heater's so loud up and down the East Coast. They got some good space heaters now. Damn near warm up a whole house. And they had to cut on the gas because they realized they had fucked up. They didn't never do that again. They work with you now. But what I'm trying to say here is the day after the election, the same thing happened. Black folks was crying the blues so bad about Kerry. You see what I'm saying? Which was a skull and bones, first cousin to Bush. First cousin to George Bush. We didn't know this cracker from Adam. But yet we were putting our faith in this thing based on mind control. See what I'm saying? Based on mind control, until black people cried the blues until the sun didn't even come out. So we know we got a certain type of power. Same thing happened to a sister named Aviva, was living in Ghana around the time that Bush, Clinton came. So she got up that morning in Ghana, Africa, and all the black people, you know, they're Christians now, big time. They put, you know, they're somewhere in the 1930s and the 1950s where we were. They putting on all these big hats and all these Sunday go to meeting clothes. And they said, she said, well, what y'all dressing up for? She said, it's a Tuesday. They were like, we're going to see the Messiah. We're going to see the Messiah. And she said, oh shit, the Messiah. She said, I'm over here in Africa and I came over here to see some shit like this. And I done hit the jackpot. So she said she went down there, you know, got dressed up and went, and she said it was Bill Clinton. So they were calling the Messiah. They was literally serious calling the Messiah. You see what I'm saying? So obviously we got this same effect. Now they're even in the book, The Messianic Legacy. In that particular book, The Messianic Legacy, I can't think of the author, they say that in actuality the president is set up under a messianic system that in actuality that is your Messiah. That's why every 4 years, you see what I'm saying, you go through this wishing period for a new Messiah or a new Redeemer. You understand what I'm saying? So in so many words, psychologically, the black folks, these fools was thinking John Kerry and they didn't even know nothing about this man. Number one, that's a rich white man. Elite. And he's George Bush's first cousin. And Skull and Bones. George Bush Sr. was his mentor in the Skull and Bones, and he mentored George Bush Jr. into the Skull and Bones. And you think that in actuality, he's going to be your ally over his first cousin and his doggone Masonic brother? Are you out your damn mind? To believe, not you, but to believe, to see the psychological thing. You know, but we take things without question. You see what I'm saying? And we know that they were, after the election, we know that they were sitting backstage and it was Wide World Wrestling. They knew who was going to win anyway. Because they traced the paper trail. Number one, all the elections all the polls have a back door because all of it was computerized. And by all of it being computerized, it means that it has a back door to it. Which means that they can go in and put what they want into it based on computer. And they say that it's interesting because the actual ones who still had the paper carry one. You see what I'm saying? But in so many words, it was nothing but Wide World Wrestling. What I mean by that is this here. These people put on entertainment show, and they go backstage and say, good job, did I do good? Yeah, you said this, and all. And it's a form of a ritual and entertainment, and you thinking this shit is reality. And this is nothing but a level of the elite. 5,000 elite around the world. So they also say, if you white and you ain't a part of that 5,000, you fuck too. You see what I'm saying? They call that the miscegenated class. Understand now, in Europe, the French don't mix with the Germans. The Russians don't mix with so-and-so. They got very strict guidelines of where they keep their so-called purity. Over here, if you white, you just mix together. So they call that the squaw, the boyers. So in so many words, that's why they're sacrificing America. Because they're saying that the whites ain't pure white. Well, the last 10 years or so, or the last 13 years, all you gotta do is look at the white woman's ass and see that there's some real mixture shit going on, some miscegenated shit. Now I went all of the 70s and didn't see no white woman with an ass the entire 70s. And now these white girls got booties like crazy. That means that in actuality, there is some mixing going on in the gene pools. You see what I'm saying? Ain't all white. So they talking about, so they got us, their racial purity is Europe. The people over here, they don't, you know, over here you see somebody on the street, you get married, you know, this shit, you know, you hook up, have sex or whatever. They don't do that shit in Europe. Remember now, you talking about people who had wars. France and England had a war for 100 years. You see what I'm saying? So we're talking about how the elite thinks. Y'all all right? You see where I'm coming from here? So, even over here, now you seeing white girls with booties. That's because the gene pools are all mixed in that whole thing. It's going on. So in so many words, they were saying that America was an experiment, and it ain't you anyway, so they're saying, that's why you on lockdown. You see what I'm saying? I go to the airport, because first of all, we ain't flying. I go to the airport, and I'm in the airport at least a minimum of twice a month. Twice a month. And that's a minimum. And mostly I see, it's just mostly white folks. And they are in the Homeland Security. You want to see Homeland Security, you want to see the terrorist shit go out to the airport and see how they got them motherfuckers. Step in this line and step in that line. And motherfuckers don't get out of line up in that airport. They had a white boy get off the plane to go to a game, going up the escalator in Atlanta, left his camcorder on the plane, ran down the escalator to go back to the plane to get his shit. They shut down the whole airport. They canceled flights and all for this one guy going back to get, because they saw a man go down the escalators backwards. And they shut down, they canceled flights, and they suing this white boy. They got people suing this white boy because they missed flights. They shut down the entire airport for one guy. So it's literally Gestapo, and it's all white. Ain't no black people up in there. You know we know how to behave now, especially when we get around white people. You know we know how to behave now. And we might show our ass around black people. You know what I'm saying? Get all up in the club and get all ignorant. But when we get around white folks, you know we know how to behave. We know that Billy Band is coming or some shit coming. So it's, you know, with us, you know, especially black people who got money to fly. Our shit is really behaved. We model citizens. You know, they don't even look at us no more. We ain't got to worry about him. We know that nigga know how to act. This shit is about lockdown for white folks. But I'm trying to say is they have sacrificed this country. You see what I'm saying? That's why they let all the doggone Hispanics in anyway. You think white folks just love the Mexicans? You see what I'm saying? You see, first of all, they understood that this country was not built on the sweat and the blood of an industrial force of immigrants. It was built on slavery. And the massacre of both indigenous Native Americans and Africans. And indigenous black folks that was over here before the Africans. See what I'm saying? Like they have found a whole tribe of Egyptians speaking meta up in Maine. Documented in that boy's book, Richard Noon's book, Ice the Ultimate Disaster, the one they made the movie The Day After Tomorrow After. And they found Akhenaten's tablets, stelas in Oklahoma, 10 years before they even knew Akhenaten existed, because he was covered up in Egypt, in Kemet. They found his slab in Oklahoma in the mid-1800s, before they even translated hieroglyphics. And it's mysterious that my name is Hemmitt, which is an Egyptian name, which means one will be, a group of people will be in the last days. E. Wallace Bud's book, Hieroglyphic Dictionary, H-E-M-M-I-T, same thing. It's I-T-T, but I-T, Hemmitt, which is an Egyptian name, and my grandfather happened to originate from Oklahoma. See what I'm saying? That kind of thing. So that means we were always here when they shut down the Grand Canyon now because they got Isis temples, Aset temples, and Osiris temples. See what I'm saying? So we were always here at this particular time. You see what I'm saying? But going back, it's interesting here because the indigenous people that was over here, they don't love you as far as this new influx of the Hispanic population. They understand that they gotta get slave labor. See what I'm saying? And it's best to let in somebody that's so-called illegal immigrants and give them a voucher because they can't be talking shit about how much money they making.
Right.
See what I'm saying? And in actuality, their behavior is impeccable. You know what I'm saying? What I'm trying to say here is, they don't love them, they just got new slaves. Because they know black folks are so blown and so shot until it's hard to get good health. We don't fuck up because it's goddamn, because we just being difficult. We fuck up psychologically, we can't do that shit. And this shit been going on a long time. My brother was in college in the damn 70s. And he had a nigga cook. He said, look, man, all I want you to do is put ketchup and mustard on the burger. And this motherfucker could not put ketchup and mustard on a hamburger. But it was so psychological, you know, we so shocked, you know. We're really bad people are high now and stuff to the super doggone factor. You know what I'm saying? We done did that stuff for free for 300 years, and it's in our genetic memory bank. You understand what I'm saying? So it's got to be some real deal fringe benefits coming behind us working. So, you know, so the Mexicans make good workers because they realize that, you know, outside of all the ones they done locked up, these black people can't do it. We psychologically ain't do it. You see what I'm saying? But it's all about slave labor. You understand what's going on? Y'all all right? So now, on election day, 4 Native American spirits came. These are ancient Native American spirits, which means these are Olmec down there. One called Yakaipa, Bozon, Yafes, Freeman, Zimri. And there was a porthole that opened up on election day. Yeah, because, you know, these people are occultists. They don't have these elections and stuff based on it's just a day in November. These people are Masonic information that learn things over the years. It was given to them when the Moors ruled Spain and the 16 universities that this stuff came out of. So those are spiritual vortex in certain days. So that day something came